Is back right now.
Yeah, there we
There we
go.
go. Awesome, awesome. So yeah, thanks guys for having me. I'm here, I'm Carmen. I'm one of the product specialists here at Quadient. So I'll be presenting kind of our AP automation tool for the GP demo day today. And then, as I mentioned, I'm one of the product specialists here. So I deal with everything that's our accounts payable automation as well as our accounts receivable automation tools over here at Quadient. And I'll be walking us a bit through that kind of quick demo piece today just to make sure that, before we get started, we know a bit more about kind of what Quadient is. So, who are we? What are we all about? Here at Quadient, we are an accounts payable automation solution provider. So, it's built by accountants for accountants. We empower your teams to succeed by automating your AP process. So, I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but AP is consistently ranked as one of the most frustrating parts of accounting. So together, what we hope to do is just make that a bit easier, minimize those repetitive manual tasks like data entry, approval follow-ups, and payment processing while also increasing the accuracy and security of AP data. So let's just jump straight into that demo. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here from those slides and we'll jump straight into that demo instance. So bear with me a minute and let me know once that screen is on. It looks like it's loading. So we'll just give it a couple seconds there. Awesome. Can you guys see it now?
Yes.
Awesome. So on your screen now, you should be able to see the Quadient AP automation interface. So before we jump into the workflow, I'll kind of give you an overview of what you're seeing on the screen here. So on the left-hand side, where I can see my cursor pointing, we have our four modules. So that's expenses, purchase orders, invoices, and payments. So at the top, right here, we have a step-by-step tab to give you visibility for each step of the AP process. And this all will flow from left to right. So starting when an invoice is new, in progress, pending approval, and all the way to when it's ready to export it into your financial system like GP, and then archived within the tool itself. Then here at the bottom, we have what we call our invoice queue or your list of invoices. It is also known to many of you as your AP inbox or work queue. So this is just going to be the list of actionable items that we have. Up here, if you can see, we have filters or organizational units. So this is where we're going to mirror your organizational structure and segment according to entity, department, division, location. You can be as creative as you'd like in there. In this example, we have as a legal entity our parent company, which is Green Bean Co. So that's what's been selected. And there you can see all the kind of departments below as well as if we jump into that organizational unit, the way that it is structured. So we can see here in Green Bean Co. we have the board, we have finance one, human resources and such. All of that should be mirrored within the system. And so now within BinWorks, you can create as many users as you'd like. So we do this to ensure you have an accurate audit trail. And so gone are, the days of managing multiple user licenses and logins within our GP. It allows for the business to scale and grow cost effectively. The beneficial part about having kind of all these users, and you can see my drop down here where you can see kind of everyone that's available, is that you can make users only see what you want them to see. So that way they're not overwhelmed with any information that isn't relevant to them. And you can separate that access as well over here at the modular level, at the tabular level, as well as the organizational unit level. So let's say, for example, if I were to jump into the org unit, if I only want finance related invoices, I can go into the finance, I can apply those, and then this will populate the invoices that are related only to the finance department. So we can see it's slowly loading in there. So that's kind of what we'll be able to see. And so say, however, you may want an accountant to have full visibility and access to all of your invoices, then an accountant would be able to see everything that's past just your organizational unit and finance level. You can also break up that access at the tabular level. So let's say an an invoice can come in and you would only be able to see the ones that you need to approve or that one person only needs to approve, as well as like, let's say one where they only have access to just the purchase order module. You'll notice as we go through the modules today that they're built out in the same ways, which makes training of the tool nice and easy. But today we'll focus on this invoice module piece, which is what allows us to get invoices into GP as well as route for those approvals. So I think we're all set and good to go in terms of understanding kind of what the tool is, what it looks like. So I'll jump straight into that invoice module, which is where we are right now. You'll click into the invoice, and the first thing we'll cover is how to get invoices into the system. So there are three different ways in which we do that based on how documents are received. So either electronically or paper-based. Most companies nowadays receive 70 to 90% of their invoices electronically. So to help you achieve this, we set up auto forwarding rules to your AP inbox or give you an AP email address, and everything will come into this piece up here in the inbox. Everything that comes in through your AP inbox will later be populated into what we call the in progress tab. So this is where we'll see, as I mentioned, kind of our invoice queue, everything that's come in that needs to be reviewed and sent over for approval. The second way to get an invoice into the system is also through our mobile app. So you can just take a picture of that invoice and then it'll send it directly to the in progress tab. And then the last way is if you're getting those invoices through paper or mail, you can just scan them into that inbox tab as well. And they will likewise populate into the in progress tab here. So, you know, in this particular piece, let's hop into the inbox just to show you what it looks like. Here's how we get invoices into a system. Let's say this comes in. We have scanned it into the inbox tab. Then we can just take a look at the invoice. It will say Smart Capture is processing the document. And once it's ready to process, we can walk back to the invoice module and it will populate in the in progress tab. So while that loads up over here, what we're going to see in the in progress tab is what the data that the invoice has provided and what's the data that the tool has been able to capture from that invoice. So we've been able to open it here, and what you see is just by looking at it here at the left is all the header details within the invoice that the tool was able to capture. So it was able to capture the invoice date, the due date, the number. It's notice that there's a PO number that doesn't exist within the system yet, the vendor that it belongs to, as well as who typically the owner and legal entity that this invoice goes to. If you were to look down here, you're also getting that line item detail of everything that's within it. So you'll be able to see the organizational unit numbers as well as all the descriptions of the line items that are available. At this point, you can also add any additional line items that haven't been captured by the system, or you can also alter any of the information that's been provided. So let's say in this particular piece, we have the SaaS licenses, but the GL account shouldn't be computer software. We can go in, edit that. Let's say it goes to building, adjust it before sending it over for approvals. So most AP professionals, spend upwards of 50% of the time just getting invoices into the system, tagging them, coding them, and then submitting them for approval. Once in Quadient AP, we're taking care of the lion's share of that work for you. So let's say right now with the invoice for this venture, you'll see we'll have the physical copy, no more need for paper, as well as, all the invoice information on the header and down the line item level. That will turn your data entry part of AP into just a couple clicks. Once you've selected all the GL accounts that things are associated to and such, we are able to submit that for approval. So we'll just click over here. And if your invoice has, more than one line item information, as I mentioned, we also capture that within. So once that's been submitted for approval, this is kind of where we'll get into that pending approval piece. So all these invoices will populate into each approver's kind of respective queue, let's call it that. And they'll be able to similarly access the invoice, edit all the data that's within it, as well as add any additional commentary. So here we'll see the unit cost identified could not be captured correctly. It'll have those additional commentaries. You can be like, hey, Tom, what's going on with this invoice? And then you'll be able to submit that and be able to have that approval communication not only done through email, which is where we see most people are currently doing their approval process, especially with GP, but also all within the tool. I'll jump into the backend of the tool just to show you quickly how to set up those approvals. So we'll go into our profile. We'll go into that invoice module or whichever module we're looking to make those approval workflows for. And what that's going to do is that it will allow us to create our different approval channels. So we'll select an existing one for the sake of the demo and just showcase here. So we have the Amazon invoices. So anything above $5,000 that belongs to the Green Bean Country Club entity, but can be also selected by organizational unit, are the people that are going to be receiving or are going to be part of this approval workflow. And what that is going to look like over here, if we were to drop down, it's just going to tell us, okay, any invoice that's about $5,000 that belongs to this entity needs to be routed to the following people. And this is where we can either select the organizational units. So if we want to filter it out by organizational unit, or if we want to filter out by approvers, we can edit that over here. So what that's going to mean is, let's say I want Ben to be the person approving it, and I also want Cameron to be approving it. Or in any situation that it could be either Ben or Cameron, we can also group those in. That's the same thing. Let's say we want Dominic to also have a set of eyes on what is going on with the invoice. We can make it so Dominic's taking a look first, and then once Dominic approves, either Cameron or Ben needs to approve before the invoice moves to the next stage of the process. So after those approvals have been set up, and these can be set up either by, as I mentioned, kind of like dollar amount, organizational unit, owner, vendor, GL code, all of that can be customizable at every level. So invoice, purchase order, payment, and expense levels. We can go back into that invoice piece, go back into the pending approval tab. And based on how we created those approval workflows is that those invoices will populate here. So we're just going to open one of the random invoices that we have available. We can see all the commentary that's been done by people that have previously had their hands on this invoice in particular. Make any additional edits. So let's say, hey, the description of this shouldn't be yummy snacks. It should just be snacks. We can alter that here. And then every single change that's made is going to be documented, and we can either make the changes and approve the invoice or reject it. One thing to note is that those rejections will have a requirement for a comment. That way, when that invoice is going back to the last person who had their hands on it, they at least know why it got rejected or what needs to be changed. Once that's been submitted for approval, then we'll go to the Ready to Export tab. And this is where we'll have all the invoices that have already gone through all their approvals. There we go. So slowly loading. Let's go back to the Ready to Export. And this is where we'll populate, as I mentioned, all the invoices that are ready to be sent back into GP. So these invoices have already been coded. They've already gone through their rounds of approvals. If we're doing payments throughout the tool, that can also be done throughout the tool. But at this level is where we're usually syncing the data back into GP so that we have, our full kind of like general ledger up to date. This sync can either be done manually, or it can just be a sync that keeps kind of feeding into it. So we can, let's say, batch select all these invoices, click export, and dates will all be populated in GP. Or we can also do those one by one, or just have that automatic sync that happens every couple minutes and feeds the information back into GP. That kind of wraps it up for the demonstration piece here. Just pull up the quick slide piece with my contact information in case anyone has any additional questions or just would like to see kind of like an additional version of the demo. But yeah, thanks so much, Amy, for letting us kind of host that small demo today, and I'll
Sure.
pass it onwards to you.
Thank you so much.